the Caitlin Clark assist gate, the scandal that was taking over the internet over the past 48 hours. Caitlin Clark not being awarded 2 assists that she rightfully deserved. And here are those 2 assists. So as you can see, Caitlin Clark comes off the high screen from Aaliyah Boston. She dribbles down and then she skip passes to the corner. Mo Billings makes a 3. This was not originally recorded as an assist. And then she's coming down the court. She's driving in, hands the ball off to Kelsey Mitchell, and she also makes a 3. This was also not originally recorded as an assist. So in this game against the Washington Mystics, Caitlin Clark ended the game with 32 points.
A'ja Wilson just sent a massive shockwave through the league, and the message was loud and clear. While the entire internet is busy crowning Caitlin Clark as the most unstoppable force in basketball history, the reigning MVP just dropped a performance so dominant, it made everyone stop in their tracks. We are witnessing a collision of 2 different eras of greatness, and the tension is reaching a boiling point. Fans are screaming that Clark has already taken the throne, but A'ja Wilson is reminding the world that she is still the gold standard of professional basketball. The debate is no longer about potential versus reality, but about who actually owns the hardwood right now.
2 more 20+ points and 10+ assist games than any other player in WNBA history, and she did this in only 56 games. And this chart that was made was actually so interesting. So on this list, you have Caitlin Clark with 12 games with at least 20 points and 10 assists, and she did that, as you can see, in like 50 some games. Second is Courtney Vandersloot with 10. Took her over 400 games. Diana Taurasi with 9. It took her over 500 games to reach this milestone. And you can see here, Skylar Diggins is on this list. Sabrina's on this list with 5. Lindsay Whalen is on this list with 5. But it took all of these players significantly.
The Caitlin Clark assist scandal recently took over the internet and exposed a massive flaw in how the league tracks greatness. For 48 hours, fans were in a literal frenzy after Clark was robbed of 2 blatant assists that she rightfully deserved against the Washington Mystics. The footage shows her coming off a high screen, delivering a perfect skip pass to the corner, and then later handing off a dime for another 3-pointer. Neither of these were originally recorded in the box score, leaving her with 8 assists instead of the double-double everyone saw with their own eyes. The backlash was so intense that the league was forced to step in and fix the mistake.
The theme of the Indiana Fever, I did want to talk about Aaliyah Boston a little bit because she was ruled out of yesterday's game and it was listed as a lower leg injury. She's been listed as day-to-day. She was questionable before the game started and then obviously listed out just a few hours before the game started. A lot of Fever fans are kind of freaking out because they're like, we've seen this before. We've seen this before with injuries, specifically with Caitlin Clark, where she was day-to-day for weeks upon weeks upon weeks and then she never made a return. So I think a lot of Indiana Fever fans are kind of thinking the worst. Like, is Aaliyah Boston actually coming back this season? How bad is her injury really? And with Aaliyah Boston's injury history, we know that
this wasn't just about a stat sheet because there was a massive betting element that turned this into a full-blown scandal. The assist line for Caitlin Clark that night was sitting right at 8.5, meaning these missing stats literally cost people a fortune. When you have fans watching every single dribble under a microscope, you cannot afford to miss textbook assists where the scorer doesn't even take a single dribble. About 24 hours later, the WNBA finally caved to the pressure and awarded Clark those 2 assists, officially giving her 32 points and 10 assists for the game. This correction triggered a chain reaction that rewrote the history books.
Originally. So the injury that happened during Unrivaled was a meniscus injury. And I did want to chime in on this. I've torn my meniscus multiple times. My meniscus is currently torn in 4 different places. That might sound crazy if you're like, how are you functioning if your meniscus is torn in 4 places? I'm still doing a lot of things. Meniscus tears are so finicky in a sense because I'm sure if you MRI'd my other leg, I would have tears in my meniscus just because I've been an athlete my whole life and played basketball for many years and ran track and ran marathons and all of these things. There's a lot of wear and tear that comes with any elite athlete, including somebody, of course, like Aaliyah Boston. There are only certain meniscus.
With those stats officially on the books, Caitlin Clark has now achieved something that took legends like Diana Taurasi and Courtney Vandersloot an entire career to accomplish. She now has more 20+ point and 10+ assist games than any other player in the history of the WNBA. The most terrifying part is that she did this in just 56 games. To put that in perspective, it took Courtney Vandersloot over 400 games to reach a similar milestone. This isn't just a rookie having a good run anymore. This is a complete takeover of the record books by a player who hasn't even reached her physical peak yet.
Some of these videos that have been going around on social media, and it's Caitlin getting into some arguments with the coaching staff. So there was a video clip that was going around with her and Coach Stephanie White kind of going back and forth. Caitlin was on the floor, Coach Stephanie White was on the sideline. Seemed like it was some sort of heated exchange. Then at the same time, later on in the game, Caitlin Clark goes to the bench, and then there was an exchange between her and Coach Breon January, and that seemed really heated. Caitlin was like clapping her hands. I actually can't find that video anymore. I can't find it. I had it saved. Now it has been deleted from the internet, so I don't know what that is about. If I find it again, I'll insert it into this video, but I did want to address it because a lot of fans are...
The numbers coming out of the Indiana Fever camp are starting to look like video game stats. In her very next game, Clark put up 21 points and 10 assists while playing less than 24 minutes. It felt like she was just coasting through the game, barely breaking a sweat while still leading her entire team in points, rebounds, and assists. If she was actually playing her regular minutes in a game like that, the final box score would have been historic. Critics are still trying to find flaws in her game, but the reality is that she is breaking records in her third season while still recovering from past injury hurdles.
Run with the worst case scenario of it. Now, I am fully aware that there is a microscope right now on the Indiana Fever's coaching staff because a lot of fans aren't happy with how the first few games of the season have gone. They're not happy about Coach Stephanie White's press conference where she was asked about Caitlin Clark and then didn't talk about her, and I was one who also criticized that. And I do think it's totally fair for us to criticize a coaching staff or criticize a player when we feel like things aren't going right, but this wasn't it. Like, I feel like it has gotten to the point with some fans where everything is such under a microscope that you're only seeing what you want to see.
But while the world is obsessed with Clark, A'ja Wilson is quietly putting up the most efficient numbers we have ever seen in the sport. A few nights ago, A'ja dropped 45 points in a performance that can only be described as a masterclass. She shot a staggering 83% from the field, marking the most efficient 45-point game in the history of the league. While fans are claiming Clark is unstoppable, A'ja is proving that she is the actual mountain that everyone else has to climb. The MVP race is no longer a polite conversation because A'ja is playing with a level of aggression that suggests she's tired of being overlooked.
WNBA, I'm going to put a trigger warning before I show this clip, but unfortunately, Rickea Jackson went down with injury last night, and it looked like an ACL. It looked like an ACL or more. It was a non-contact injury. It looked like she was going to Eurostep. She planted. It was the same leg where she's wearing a leg sleeve. She planted, her knee kind of shifts, and she just goes straight down. And that's so sad and frustrating for Rickea Jackson. And I just want to say, like, I am sending all the best to Rickea Jackson. This has been a tough year for her, both on and off the court. Like, there has been some things off the court that has just been so off.
The Las Vegas Aces are finally starting to flow again, and the addition of Kennedy Carter to the mix has made them look terrifying. A'ja Wilson is currently trailing only Kelsey Plum in the scoring race, but her impact on the defensive end and her efficiency in the paint are unmatched. There is a growing sentiment among veteran players that the media's obsession with the new generation is overshadowing the greatness that is happening right in front of us. A'ja isn't just winning games, she is dismantling opponents with a precision that makes the league's top defenders look like amateurs. The reigning champion is not ready to hand over her crown.
Shout out A'ja Wilson, because just a few nights ago she had a 45-point game, the most efficient 45-point game in WNBA history. 45 points, 3 rebounds, and she shot 83% from the field. A'ja Wilson, reigning MVP, reigning WNBA champion. If we're talking about the MVP race this year, she is still in the lead. So I just thought that this was so impressive. The Aces seem to be flowing. Also adding Kennedy Carter to the mix for the Las Vegas Aces. Kennedy Carter looks great. Kennedy Carter looks great, and she also looks more locked in than I've.
The MVP race is becoming a battlefield where two different philosophies of basketball are clashing. On one side, you have the playmaking wizardry and long-range shooting of Caitlin Clark, who is currently leading the league with 9 assists per game. On the other side, you have the sheer physical dominance and scoring prowess of A'ja Wilson and Kelsey Plum. With Napheesa Collier potentially missing time due to injury, the door is wide open for a new leader to emerge. Fans are divided, and the tension between the old guard and the new arrivals is starting to manifest in ways that no one expected when the season began. However, things aren't all perfect in Indiana, and the cracks are starting to show within the coaching staff. Shocking video footage has surfaced showing Caitlin Clark getting into heated exchanges with her coaches on the sidelines. In one clip, she was seen going back and forth with head coach Stephanie White while still on the floor. Later in the same game, a much more intense exchange occurred on the bench between Clark and Brianna January. Clark was seen clapping her hands aggressively, appearing to challenge the instructions she was being given. Interestingly, that specific video has since been scrubbed from parts of the internet, leading to massive speculation. The microscope on the Indiana Fever coaching staff is becoming unbearable as fans demand answers for the team's rocky start. People are analyzing every press conference, especially after Stephanie White was criticized for avoiding questions about Clark's specific performance. While some argue that heated exchanges are a normal part of professional sports, others see this as a sign of a deeper dysfunction. When you have a generational talent like Clark, the pressure to maximize her potential is immense. If the coaching staff and the star player aren't on the same page, the entire organization could be heading toward a massive internal collapse. Adding to the Fever's problems is the mysterious injury situation surrounding Aaliyah Boston. She was ruled out of a recent game with what was described as a lower leg injury, but the day-to-day label is starting to worry the fan base. We have seen this pattern before where a player is listed as day-to-day for weeks until the season is suddenly over. Coach Stephanie White keeps insisting that they are just exercising an abundance of caution, but the lack of clarity is fueling rumors. Reports have surfaced suggesting it might be a meniscus injury, which is one of the most unpredictable and finicky issues an elite athlete can face. A meniscus tear is a nightmare for a basketball player because it acts as the primary shock absorber for the knee joint. Unlike an ACL, which is a clear-cut season ender, a meniscus tear can feel fine one day and then become completely agitated the next. It leads to locking, popping, and sudden swelling that can rob a player of their explosiveness and jumping ability. If Boston is dealing with a flap tear that gets caught in the joint, she could be looking at a cleanup surgery that would sideline her for a significant portion of the season. The Fever simply cannot afford to lose her presence in the paint if they want to remain competitive. The physical toll of this season is starting to pile up across the entire league. Just last night, Rhynika Jackson went down with what looked like a devastating non-contact knee injury. It happened during a Eurostep maneuver where her knee appeared to shift unnaturally as she planted her foot. The Chicago Sky Star was already playing with a leg sleeve, suggesting she was battling through something, but this latest incident looked like a possible ACL tear. It is a heartbreaking blow for a player who has already dealt with so much personal adversity off the court recently. The league is losing stars at an alarming rate this year. The Chicago Sky were finally finding their rhythm with Jackson, and seeing her go down in such a graphic way has cast a dark cloud over their season. It's a reminder of how fragile these championship windows really are. When you lose a player of that caliber, it changes the entire geometry of the floor and puts even more pressure on the remaining starters. As the injuries mount, the conversation always circles back to the workload and the intensity of the modern WNBA schedule. These athletes are pushing their bodies to the absolute limit, and sometimes the limit pushes back with life-altering consequences. Despite the chaos and injuries, the stat leaders this season are putting up numbers that are genuinely hard to believe. Kiki Iriafen is surprisingly leading the way in rebounds, stepping into a role that many expected Angel Reese to dominate. Meanwhile, Maureen Johannes is still lighting up the league with her signature one-legged three-pointers, proving that the international influence on the game is stronger than ever. But even with all these amazing performances, the spotlight keeps shifting back to the rivalry between the established stars in Vegas and the rising tide in Indiana. The league has never had this much eyes on it. A'ja Wilson's dominance isn't just about the points she scores, it's about the fear she instills in the opposition. When she is on the floor, teams have to completely rewrite their defensive schemes just to slow her down. Her 45-point explosion was a reminder that while Clark might be the future of the league, A'ja is the present. The efficiency she displayed is something we rarely see even in the NBA. To score that many points while missing only a handful of shots is a level of perfection that very few human beings will ever reach. She is playing with a chip on her shoulder that should terrify every other team. The narrative that Clark is unstoppable seems to be what is fueling A'ja Wilson's recent tier. There is a sense of professional pride at stake when a rookie or a young player gets all the headlines, while you are the one holding the championship trophies. Fans are quick to jump on the newest trend, but the veterans are showing that they aren't ready to be pushed aside. This competitive tension is exactly what the WNBA needed to reach the next level of mainstream popularity. It's not just about basketball anymore. It's about a battle for respect and the right to be called the face of the league. Looking at the assist leaders, it's clear that Clark is in a league of her own when it comes to vision. She is leading players like Alyssa Thomas and Chelsea Gray, who are known for their high-level IQ and playmaking ability. Being at the top of that list as a young player is a testament to how she sees the game 2 steps ahead of everyone else. However, the turnovers and the friction with the coaching staff suggest that there is still a massive learning curve. She is being asked to carry an entire franchise on her back, and that kind of pressure can lead to the heated moments we saw on the bench. The assist gate controversy also highlighted how much power the fans now have in the digital age. In years past, a missing stat would have just been a footnote that no one noticed. Now, with thousands of people watching every clip and tracking every betting line, the league is held to a standard of perfection that is almost impossible to maintain. The fact that the WNBA corrected the stats so quickly shows that they are listening to the discourse. They know that the credibility of the league's records is under more scrutiny than ever before because the stakes have never been higher. As we move deeper into the season, the health of players like Aaliyah Boston and Rhynica Jackson will dictate the playoff picture. If the Fever can't get Boston back to 100%, the burden on Clark will become unsustainable. We've seen what happens when a star player is forced to do too much without a reliable interior presence. The defense collapses on them, the shooting percentages drop, and the frustration boils over. The coaching staff needs to find a way to manage these injuries while also managing the personalities in the locker room before the season slips away from them completely. A'ja Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces are currently the team to beat, and they seem to be peaking at the exact right time. They aren't just winning, they are making statements with every single victory. The MVP race is going to be a grueling battle to the finish line, and it will likely come down to who can maintain this historic level of production through the final stretch of the season. Will it be the veteran brilliance of A'ja Wilson or the record-breaking momentum of Caitlin Clark? The fans have already made their choice, but the players are the ones who will decide it on the court. The league is at a crossroads where the hype is finally meeting the reality of the game. We are seeing incredible highs with 45-point games and triple-doubles, but we are also seeing the raw, ugly side of the sport with injuries and sideline arguments. This is what growth looks like in a professional league. It's messy, it's loud, and it's incredibly competitive. The players are more focused than ever, and the fans are more engaged than we have ever seen in the history of women's sports. Every single game now feels like an event that could change the course of history. Ultimately, the crown of the unstoppable player isn't given, it is taken through blood, sweat, and historic performances. A'ja Wilson has the hardware to prove she belongs at the top, but the relentless pressure from Caitlin Clark and the new generation is forcing her to reach even higher levels of greatness. This rivalry is the best thing that could have happened to the WNBA, as it pushes every player to prove their worth every single night. Whether you're rooting for the established legend or the rising phenom, one thing is certain: the era of being unstoppable has only just begun.